Hello and welcome to Susie B. Living's Gardening by the Moon series. So it is Thursday the 25th of April and it is a flowers day. But I'm not going to deal with that because that was in my last video. I am going to deal with the rest of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and then I will be back with you on Sunday night for the next installment. I hope that you are enjoying your moon phase gardening or your gardening by the moon, and I hope that it is working out for you. If you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. And this is my schedule for the upcoming next few days of what I do according to Gardening by the Moon. So I have my little trusty little black book down here with me in the greenhouse. I am going to do half of this video in the greenhouse and the rest I'm going to do inside because I have more examples to show you inside of what's going on. So let's have a look. Here we are. Friday the 26th of April and Saturday the 27th of April are both leaves days. This is the second lot of leaves days for April. We've already had one lot and this is the second lot for April. So there's a little bit that I will be doing that I didn't actually do last time. And this is the beauty of doing this schedule, this Gardening by the Moon schedule. If you don't get stuff done earlier in the month, you can actually get it done later in the month because we usually have more than one of the moon phase days happening in the month. So it'll happen again later on. So for me, I didn't get to sow my spinach that I said I was going to sow. So if you want to sow spinach, I recommend that you choose a spinach that is going to be either a slow bolter or a no bolter. I don't think there is such a thing as a no bolting spinach, but there are a couple of varieties that I can give you here that are what are called slow bolters. So as we warm up going into the summer, you wouldn't know it, would you, with me wearing my scarf, even in the greenhouse, but as we warm up going into the summer, things like spinach want to go to seed. They're not really the best thing to grow in the summer. That's when I then swap over to my other sowings that I'm going to mention in a minute. So I am going to try, and this is just an experiment for me, I am going to try two of the slow bolters. One is called Santa Cruz, and that produces little leaves, like those baby leaves that you get in packets in the supermarket. So that's the first one. The second one is a Japanese spinach called Mikado, and it has really big leaves with very fleshy stems, but the stems are nice and soft. They're very easy to eat, and it is a great spinach, this one. And it does actually like growing in a little bit of warmth. So I'm going to be doing those two. I was going to do it earlier, but it's not too late to do it now. If I don't get it done tomorrow or Saturday, then I won't do any at all because I actually have a tray of them that are ready to go out into the garden. So okay, the next thing is the last leaves day I sowed most of my lettuce and they're all starting to come up. So that's fantastic. There is one variety that I want to sow a few more of, and that is Meraviglia de Verano Canasta. Now I'm just wondering if I've got any in here in the greenhouse, but I don't think I have actually. I think they're on the allotment. It is a great lettuce for the summer. It's very crunchy. I think they call it a Batavian lettuce. So it's kind of like a cross between an iceberg and a cos. And it is really, really delicious. It's a kind of bronzy color on the outside, but very green in the middle. And I'm going to do a few more of those. I want to do about another 10 of those. I get my seeds from Franchi Seeds, which is Seeds of Italy here in the UK, and it is a great, great lettuce. If you want to sow lettuce, you can sow lettuce tomorrow or Saturday. Great time to sow lettuce. You can do the cut and come lettuce as well. I'm going to sow a little bit in my one of my veggie pods, because most of the time I grow cut and come in veggie pods, but you can also grow them in pots as well. I mean, you know, you can just grow cut and come lettuce in a tiny little pot, even in like a 1 litre pot like this. You can grow a few leaves for yourself. You can have it on the windowsill. If you don't have a garden, you can have it on your windowsill. If you have a balcony, you can put them in pots on the balcony. It is a great way of eating leaves and not buying those awful leaves from the supermarket that they pick and put into those bags. Yucky, yucky. So that's the lettuce. So spinach, let's talk about that. In the summer, the best spinach I find is perpetual spinach. They also call it New Zealand spinach. Not sure why, but they do. Perpetual spinach is a spinach that works a little bit like chard. Chard and perpetual spinach come from the same family. And that is what I'm going to be sowing some chard as well, because my chard in the garden is going to seed. It is ready to come out now, and also the perpetual spinach as well. That's ready to come out. Now, because I have garlic growing in between all of this, I am not going to pull the plants out. I'm going to cut them off at soil level. You will see that if you do that, and actually I quite like doing that for most of my crops, because the roots will then biodegrade back into the soil and you'll get better bacteria in the soil. But if you cut off any kind of lettuce at soil level stem, or perpetual spinach or chard, it might try and sprout again. I just keep cutting it and taking the sprouts off, and eventually it does actually biodegrade back down into the ground. So I will be sowing my next batch of perpetual spinach and my next batch of chard as well. And that then hopefully will take me through to the end of the year. I might sow another lot end of August, beginning of September, and that then will then take me through to now, because that's when I put my perpetual spinach and my chard into my raised beds here at home in the garden. They are still going from then. They are fantastic. So perpetual spinach, the chards that I've chosen are, I'm going to do a few rainbow chard, but I also like the rhubarb chard as well. I do like the red stems, and they are quite delicious. And the other one that I swear by, that I say all the time, and I've mentioned many times, is the barese chard. That is the Italian variety of chard, and I absolutely like it. You could also sow something like Ford Hook Giant. Ford Hook Giant is a great chard. It is massive, and some people like to also sow peppermint chard. Now, I tried that one year, and whilst it looks absolutely gorgeous in the garden, it's a very good looking plant. It was all right. It was just a normal chard. I didn't think it was anything spectacular when it came to taste. But if you want something that's really good looking, peppermint chard's the other one as well. That's that. Also, if you want to, and I'm not doing this because I'm up to date with what I'm doing, you could put in some red cabbages. I've got some very nice, I'll show you why I'm up to date, because I've got some very nice red cabbages here coming along. These are the red Ladero and the drumhead here. Now these are just about ready. I'm just going to have a look whether these are just about ready to come out of the cells. Nearly, not quite ready to come out of their cells. But I will then put those into 9cm pots and grow them on. So I've got some nice red cabbage there. You can also do a few savoys if you want to. I've got some very nice savoys here as well. I've got a whole tray of savoys, cabbages. You could sow some kaleets if you like kaleets as well. I've got some here. I've got a tray of kaleets coming on. These aren't ready to transplant yet. These have been really slow, actually, these kaleets. What else? Brussels sprouts. I've got to prick out some Brussels sprouts inside. So if you want to have some Brussels sprouts for autumn, winter, You can sow those now as well. So there's quite a lot to sow when it comes to leaves on Leaves Day. Also, okay, let's go on to my next category, which is transplanting. So for the Leaves Days, Friday and Saturday, I have got quite a bit of transplanting to do. I've got some kales to transplant. I've got a tray of kale up here, and there's one particular kale that I want out of this. The end I've left, but there's one here called Reflex. Now this is a curly kale. Let me just take a few bits off this here. This is a curly kale, and this definitely needs to go out, because if I show you, the root system's ready to go out. So these, at this time of year, I would actually put these out in the ground that size. Earlier in the year, I pot them on to 9 centimetre pots, just so that they get a better root system before I plant them out. But it doesn't matter, now that we're getting warmer, it doesn't matter. You can take those kales out of those small modules and put them straight in, because they will grow. I also have some kalets I talked about. I've got some kalets inside that need to be pricked out and need to be then potted on into this type of module, this 12 cell module, so they have to come out. I've got some more red cabbage inside that needs to be pricked out, and that is the red fuego. So I'm going to have quite a lot of red cabbages, which I'm not worried about, because I absolutely love red cabbage. We like to eat red cabbage all year round. I have some Brussels sprouts inside that need to be pricked out as well and put into these kind of modules. And then I've just got some small pots of parsley. I've got this curly parsley, and I've also got some flat leaf parsley here as well that needs to just go out into the garden. And I've also got some more flat leaf parsley inside. I've got some herbs actually in pots inside that could now be transplanted out either into a big pot or into the garden, into the raised beds. I usually have them here at home. The other thing that I've got that's ready to go out is my batch of coriander here. I've got coriander modules to go out, and that's exciting because we like a lot of coriander. Oh, tatsoi. My last lot of tatsoi is going to go out as well, and that's here in this module. So that's going to go in the veggie pod, because the other veggie pod, the tatsoi, is all gone to seed, and I've finished harvesting from it. Right, weeding and maintenance. Let's talk about that. Kale's on the allotment. I haven't been home for a few days, so I need to go to the allotment. I might even do that this afternoon, because it has started to brighten up, but the weather has been absolutely shocking all week so far. So it's been very difficult to get over to the allotment. But I need to go and have a look over there at my kales, see how they're getting on in the beds. I've got the lettuce in the greenhouse as well that I need to give a water to, and the komatsuna. That's going to be my last picking of komatsuna for the year so far, until the end of the year. And my Asian greens, like I mentioned in my veggie pods behind you as well. I need to sort those out, because I need to put the next lot of stuff in. And feeding, there's really nothing to be fed when it comes to leaves. Everything's looking quite good. I'm harvesting the lettuces here in the greenhouse slowly. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 more pots left of lettuce. So we're now eating lettuce quite regularly in salads. So that's really gorgeous and really lovely, very much like that. So that's your Leaves Days. Okay, let me just think. Yeah, I'm going to go inside for the next one. Okay, so now you see why I'm inside. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about Sunday. Sunday, the 28th of April, is a fruits day on the moon phase calendar. And in fact, Monday is as well, just to give you that heads up. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm going to sow first. I'm going to sow another batch of peas. my last batch of peas for the summer, really, for until later on. I'll put another batch in at the end of the summer. And I'm going to do some more Oregon sugar pod and some more sugar snap, because the ones in the garden are looking fantastic. I have my early peas, which are the podding peas in the pots. They are looking great. They're nearly ready to pod. The ones in the garden are looking really good as well. They would be further on if the weather was better, and they would, but they're not flowering yet, but they're looking really great. So now my next sort of peas start going in, and then that's it for me. So if you want to do some peas, especially Monge 2 or snow peas, then it's a great time to do them. And I like the sugar snaps as well, so I'm going to do those. That's that. Now, squash. I start my main crop of squash or winter squash or pumpkins now. I don't like to start them too early because they have to sit in pots for ages. They grow so fast, and so that's why I sow them now at the end of April. So my squash that I'm doing the two small ones I'm going to do are the little sweet dumpling and the Jackby Little, which is the little orange one. Then I'm going to do Crown Prince, which is the stock standard squash or pumpkin that does really well in this country. I did some last year. We've eaten them all. They've all gone. They're absolutely fantastic. I'm also going to put in a couple of Iran. Iran is a pumpkin that I grew from, if I've got the seeds, I hope I've got the seeds, some seeds for it, from Baker Creek Seeds, and it was the most amazing pumpkin. That one and the Queensland Blue are probably the best pumpkins that I've ever eaten, or squash, winter squash that I've ever had, the flesh of them. The other one that's pretty good is Delica. That's another really great squash, and that's I think it's an Italian variety. They grow it a lot in Italy, and I'm going to put those in. So that is my kind of main crop squash. They're going in. The next thing I'm going to sow is I'm going to sow some more melons. I'm going to be sowing my Minnesota midget. I have some of those little plants. They're downstairs still under my grow lights, but because I bought 2 cucumbers up here, and I'll show you in a minute, to experiment to see if they're okay, and because they're doing okay up here, I think I'm going to bring the melons up here now as well, so it's obviously warm enough for them. I'm going to be doing a honeydew. I'm going to be doing Emir, which is an F1 that does really well here in the UK, and I'm going to be doing Malaga, and I'm also going to be doing the watermelon, which is the champagne watermelon. They're all to be grown undercover, either underneath my little polytunnel on the allotment or in the greenhouse over at the allotment. So then I am doing sweet corn. Sweet corn I like is called Incredible. They're going to go, I got some root trainers because I haven't got enough toilet roll holders, and they're going to go in root trainers. The thing with sweet corn, to grow proper sweet corn, it's they don't like to be in short, stocky pots. I mean, even if you had a pot like this type of depth, they don't really like it. They like their roots. The roots go very deep, so they like their roots to start off in quite deep containers. That's why I find they do really well in root trainers. If you're in a country where you can sow direct into the ground, I would definitely do that. I wouldn't be buying plants, because if you can sow direct, it's much better for the plant, because then the roots can get off really well. If you're here, like in the UK, or you're in a temperate climate, I'm in zone 8. So if you're in a temperate climate, then you have to start them in modules. Try and get something as deep as possible. I mean, if you can do these, this is better than those really short little modules. So, but you need to get them out as soon as possible. The only problem is we're going to be waiting for the weather to be right for the sweet corn to actually go into the ground. So that's why I do them in the root trainers, so that they have a little bit longer in which to get established to then go into the ground. I found that when I was doing them in the, you know, those modules I just showed you a minute ago, I haven't got any up here, those 12 cell modules, And you can get those in the garden centre. When they sell sweet corn, they sell them in those in the garden centre. They're fine. You get them into the ground though, and then they sulk for quite a long time. And you don't really want that. You want the sweet corn to keep growing. So they get in there and they don't quite know what to do with themselves. And that's the issue with sweet corn. So I am going to be doing my tomatoes that I'm going to be putting outside. Ha, she says, with this weather, with the old blight. But I'm going to be doing two varieties that they do very well outside here in the UK, but they're not blight resistant by any stretch of the imagination. But I am also doubling up on them. So I'm going to have some inside in my greenhouse, the big greenhouse, and some outside. And they are sun gold. You can buy plants, sun gold plants already from garden centres. And I think you can probably buy tiarella from garden centres as well. They're both quite common varieties. They grow really well, like I said, in the UK here, outside. And the other one that I will be sowing myself is honeycomb. If you can get that from a garden centre, then that's great as well. I haven't seen it here in the garden centres here. Mind you, I haven't been to one of my favourite garden centres out towards Cleethorpes. I might go and have a look and see if they've got any plants. The only thing with buying plants from garden centres for me is they won't have sown on the moon phase days, you see. And I have found in the past that when I have bought seedlings from garden centres and I've put them in, it's been quite hit and miss. And remember, my number one thing about moon gardening is sowing. Sowing on the moon gardening days is the most important thing for me, because I find that the plant has a much better chance if you do. So, but it's not going to stop you going to get some seedlings, especially if you feel, oh, I haven't got time to do the sowing and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Go and get your seedlings. It really, really doesn't matter that much. Okay, so that's tomatoes. Then beans. Okay. Just show you my climbing beans that I have here that should have gone out into the greenhouse but couldn't go out into the greenhouse because of the weather. This is the state of them. How I am going to unravel that mess, I have no idea. But I am going to have to, because they are going to have to go out into the green. So those climbing beans are called cobra. They are fast, really fast. They're great here in the UK. They make great, nice green beans. They're stringless, gorgeous. I started those because I want an early crop in the big greenhouse. I'm going to put them in a big pot in the big greenhouse, grow them up a wigwam, and I don't care where they go really. So that's that lot. My next lot I'm going to be sowing up. I'm going to do another lot of cobra climbing, and then I'm going to do some dwarf as well. Dwarf French beans are much faster than climbing French beans. So you will get a crop of them much quicker. There's a lovely purple variety called Amethyst, which I really, really like. I'm doing that, and I'm doing another one called Sprite. That's another green one. Then next I'm going to put in, I'm going to sow my cucumber, which is kind of my main crop cucumber that I do in the greenhouse. It's called Passandra. It's an F1 and I swear by it. It is a great cucumber. Let me just show you these cucumber plants that I was telling you about here. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Actually. So this one are the little mini muncher ones. They're called Baby. They're an F1, and I've got two up here. One smaller one that actually looks really good as well. I wasn't sure whether it was going to make it. So they're fine. So I've got some more downstairs under my grow lights. They're all coming up here now, and I'm going to continue growing them here until I am ready to put them out. That is that. And then my next lot of courgette. So I've got some plants here on the on my staging in the dining room here, and they can go out. I need to put another 2 plants in my big greenhouse. The one in my greenhouse I don't know whether you watch my vlog or not, but I do a weekly vlog. And I showed you, I planted up a pot with a courgette in there. It's doing really well. It's taken very nicely in there now. We had 4 degrees in there last night, and tonight we're expecting a frost. So I am going to heat that greenhouse because I do not want my tender stuff to go in there. And that I'm going to be putting a few more seeds of them in, because then they can start to go over when the weather gets better. They can go over to the allotment and go into the ground. So let's talk about transplanting. So my transplanting at the moment is I continue on with my peppers and my chilies. I have some very nice peppers here. These are my padrons. I've got them here on the dining room now. I've taken them out of the window because these are ready now to go into my emerald greenhouse. So I'm just going to start hardening them off a little bit. I might put them in the big greenhouse for the moment just to harden them off, and then they go out into their bigger pots. I'm not going to repot them anymore after these 1 litre pots. They stay in that until they go into their final position. So I've got that. I have my melons that are downstairs. Now, whether I'm going to pot them on, I'm thinking about it. They're only in little pots, but I might do it. I have to just check the root system on them. Tomatoes. Okay, so these tomatoes here are my very, very first tomato sowings that I sowed. When? 7th of February. They are already flowering, these tomatoes. These are red profusion. So they are a determinate tomato, means they're a bush variety. You don't pinch out any of the stems. Okay. These are going to go into pots or hanging baskets. Last week, I was going to take them outside and put them in the greenhouse, but then we had this big cold snap. So I thought otherwise about it, and I'm glad I didn't, because actually they've started to become quite strong, sturdy plants. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got 5 here, and I will be taking them out one by one. That one that I just showed you is the strongest, and that's got the flowers on, but the rest of them are coming nicely as well. They are going to start to go out, and that's what I mean by transplanting. The other thing is my cucumbers as well, so I'm going to bring those upstairs. I've got some cucumbers in some smaller cells. I will pot those onto these 9 centimetre pots or 10 centimetre pots, and I will bring them up here in the dining room, which is great. Right, weeding and maintenance. Fruit. So the fruit trees seem to be doing quite well, even though they are getting battered. I have apricots on my apricot tree, which is fab. I have still got my nectarine and my peach in the emerald greenhouse, but I have to evacuate everything from that greenhouse because I have to put this watering system in it. So they're going to come out. The citrus, that has to all come out as well. And my soft fruit, I just got to check on that as well. I noticed some pigeons sitting in my cherry tree eating something. Now, are they eating the leaves or are they eating the cherries? I don't know, but I was not happy. So just checking on my fruit, making sure there's no black fly. Black fly loves cherry leaves, by the way, it loves it. So just checking on things like that. Also, peas are fine. Broad beans, I want to go over and take the cover off the broad beans on the allotment. They will be ready to be uncovered. I might have to put something around them if the pigeons start nibbling again. And that's my weeding and maintenance. And feeding, I continue feeding my peppers, my chilies, and my tomatoes. That's a continual. And I might even give my cucumbers a little bit of a feed as well, just so that they can, you know, be happy and get going and, you know, all that kind of business. So that is that. That took us to Sunday, the 28th of April, and I will be back on Sunday evening for your next update next week we go into May next week, which is very interesting considering I have all this stuff on the table in front of me. Let me just show you while I'm here just quickly. You know, I talked about these lettuces that were germinating. Here they are. So we're coming to Leaves Day tomorrow. Can you see? And they're starting to germinate. This is the beauty of moon phase gardening, is that your germination is excellent. So thank you very much for watching. I am Susie B from Susie B Living, and I hope that you are having a good week so far. Like I said, I will see you Sunday night. If you like my videos, give me a thumbs up. That's fantastic. And also subscribe, because if you subscribe, then you will get my updates every week, and now twice a week. In the winter, it's once a week. In the summer, spring, summer, and autumn, it's twice a week. All right, I will see you later. Bye.